of all, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Really appreciate it. I'm going to pass you over in a second to Marion Hewitt. She's the person who's going to be facilitating the event. Just to let you know that the event is being recorded. The reason is so that if people have missed the workshop and they want to watch it after the event, then we've got access to do that. So just to let you know that. There's just a few more people joining now. So I'll just wait for them to come, and then I'll pass you over to Marion.
Okay.
They're joining now. Okay, Marion, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So have you switched across? So I've got the hosting bit now, and then I can, if you do that, then I can share screen. I'll let anybody else in as they turn up. So yeah, welcome. It's great to see so many, and we had a huge response to this event. And the reason I'm doing it is my background is an awful lot of years in HR. I've got a certificate with a number on that I don't shout about anymore. And I do feel that so many people are working in HR, and it hasn't been recognised the impact on the profession of recent months. You know, we read about the millions of people that have been furloughed, and we actually seem to forget that actually there's a process behind making that happen. So, you know, we actually need to be making sure that we are looking after ourselves as well as looking after everybody else. So my work, I've had my own business for the last 5 years, and I do coaching, particularly with HR, but I also do a lot of mental health awareness, mental health first aid training into organisations and open courses. Also positive psychology practitioner, so a lot of the work that I draw on comes from the science of positive psychology, which is all about making life better, basically. So the first question, I want to try and make this as interactive as we can. Obviously we've got quite a large group, but you know, let's go with it and see the rest as we can. We will do quite a lot of the time in breakout rooms, because the idea is that you can think about your own self-care and the plan that you would like to put together. So the first question I want to ask, we can use the chat, and I probably know the answer to this one, just the fact that you're here. Do you believe that self-care is important? Yes, no, maybe. Just stick your thoughts into the chat. I'm not seeing anything coming into the chat.
My chat's disabled.
Yeah, my chat's disabled too.
Yeah, and mine.
Right.
Mine too.
Could you?
Mine too. Yeah, mine's disabled too.
Okay, looks like we have a slight technical hitch here, which we will overcome. Can you look at that in the background, Joe?
I think you'll need to go on to security, Marion. You click on the security button at the bottom.
Okay. Chat.
I've got it back now.
Right, brilliant. We're in business. Right, good. So if you would like to, do you believe? Yeah, I'm getting the answer I was hoping for and fully expecting. Now, the next question is, do you always make time for self-care? Yes, no, occasionally, sometimes. Where would your thoughts be on that? Yeah, not always, 50%. Yeah, learn to have to. Yeah, sometime. Yes, not enough hours in the day. Yeah. So it's a thing that we are all constantly challenging ourselves with, and I do think a huge amount of it is, you know, about our conditioning and our thinking about, we're almost brought up that, you know, put others first and all that side of things, and we don't rationalize it from the other perspective, that actually by putting ourselves first and building our resources, we're in a better place for looking after others. So although, you know, we know about all these quotes we hear about, you know, you can't pour from an empty container and put your oxygen mask on first, we just quote those, we don't actually necessarily follow them. So let me get, oh, hang on, let's let people in and show slides. Hopefully that can now see. And let's move on. Maybe you recognize elements of this person sometimes. And when we are feeling or in this state, what happens to ourselves? How are we feeling? What's going on? Stick any thoughts into the chat. When things are getting overwhelming, I found a picture of, I was looking for pictures of homeschooling, for interestingly, all the pictures that you can get online, look at angelic children quietly conforming to work. And I don't think that's the experience of a lot of parents try to do it. But yeah, overwhelmed, anxious, unable to think straight, everything is too much. Yeah,
I've been sent some gyms.
Absolutely, all those things. So, oh, I think we've got, if anybody's not on mute, could I just ask you to do it? We've got a bit of additional noise coming in. So if we think about what is actually happening to our brains when we are feeling like that, it's actually processes that are happening. So when we think we can't think straight and we can't cope and we're forgetting things, actually that's brought about by changes that are actually happening in our brain. So the brain, a part of it is the HPA axis is activated by stress, which is the bit that then releases the cortisol into the body, and it gets the body ready for immediate action. Obviously, sometimes that's a positive response. Sometimes we have stress as an anticipatory reaction. You know, we can be excited about something and we're looking forward to something at the beginning of a race or a competition. It can be good. But where we are constantly releasing that cortisol, it starts to affect our brain, and it increases the connections and the activity level in the amygdala, which is the oldest part of the brain, and the brain's the fear center, the one that triggers our fight flight response. And gradually that actually also affects the hippocampus, because as it's taking the activity away from there to your actual survival mode, that's the hippocampus, the area that affects our memories and our learning and our logical thought. So we actually, our ability to think straight and make decisions will be affected by stress as that's happening, and actually, you know, it becomes harder to control. And over time, it can actually result in the brain shrinking, because the number of synaptic connections are reduced between neurons and things. So actually, it's not just, because we've got a lot on, we can't think. Actually, we're creating changes in our brain. So there's a lot of real reason why we need to make sure we are working to look after ourselves. So let's think about health, well-being, whichever definitions, however you want to think about it. So I've got theorists amongst us that need some rationale behind it, and just for thinking it through and working out how things fit together. We know that health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and it's not just the absence of disease or infirmity, and it's very important that we look at both those elements. And then let's think about the well-being. What do we actually mean by well-being? Loads of descriptions and you know, different interpretations of it, but I like this one as a definition, which comes from Dodge in 2012, and she describes it as being a balance between our resources and our challenges. So we build up our psychological, our social and our physical resources so we can meet the challenges that we are facing. So obviously, if we think at the moment, particularly you know, on the challenges side and the challenges on the psychological element, we need to be putting even more effort into building those resources, because the challenges are so tough. And the different elements of psychological well-being have been defined and used a lot in this model that research by Riff identified the 6 factors that were necessary for psychological well-being. And you may well recognize some elements that you see in different models. The idea of self-acceptance, self-compassion is something I've got really interested in and using a lot in my work. You know, that being kinder to ourselves, stopping that constant internal narrative that's bullying us or telling us to do things, but actually coming from a place of self-compassion and self-acceptance. Building positive relations and the impact that has. Personal growth and purpose in life, having purpose and meaning, you know, goals, things to attain. And actually research shows that working towards goals actually has a greater impact on our well-being than the achievement of them, because it's about the meaning and purpose. Environmental mastery, having the skills, the knowledge to manage and do the things that we need to. And the last one being autonomy, which you find in a lot of different models, and is our ability to have freedom and control over our world, which is one of the things I think a lot of people are finding difficult at the moment, that obviously how we live our life is being very restricted in ways that are outside our control. So when we're looking at our well-being and our self-care, how we're meeting all the different needs. So Dodge looks at the idea of well-being as being a balance, but if you take it further, some of you may well have come across Marty Seligman and all his work about flow and flourishing. So the concept of flourishing is actually taking things beyond a balance and actually moving towards a much positive, flourishing. The word says what it is. And he identified the 5 elements that contributed towards our being able to reach a state of flourishing. So that is about having the positive emotions, to how we're feeling good. It's about the engagement, finding flow, interest, involvement in what we're doing, building authentic connections and relationships, back to having, as similar things we can saw from the RIF model, having meaning and purpose, and a sense of accomplishment and achievement. And at the end, you can see the H added on, and that was a further development of the model by McQuaid and Kern just a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now, which added on health, recognizing that that was important. So I'm putting these in just to help us think about all the different parts that actually make up our sense of well-being, our ability to flourish, and what we want to put into our self-care. 5 ways of well-being you may well have seen is this is a very well adopted model. NHS use it for a lot of their work, and that again, it is from academic research, Economics Foundation, and they found out the people that described themselves as having a positive level of well-being, what were they doing, what were the common factors? And again, you're going to see a lot of things that are similar threads to the previous ones. It's about connecting. How can we build connections with, within family, with friends, remotely, with communities, activity, what exercise we do, how we keep our activities going, the taking notice. How often do we really do that? How often are we in such a hurry, we eat a meal and then we don't even really notice what we've eaten, or we're dashing around and we don't notice that we're driving through some beautiful countryside or something like that, just taking that moment. And then the keeping learning, actually constantly striving. This isn't about learning version 25 of furlough, it's about things that actually are of interest to us, that we're engaged and want to learn, or trying out cooking something different, or new interest. And then giving. What's interesting about giving is actually the benefit for the person that's giving has been shown to be greater than the recipient. So it's a win-win situation. When you do something nice for somebody because you want to, you'll get that feel-good factor, as well as them getting the benefit. So lots of stuff that really show that we want to look after ourselves, that it's beneficial to look after ourselves, and the outcomes are good for everybody. But somehow that still doesn't mean that we always do that. Just as negative emotions characterize depression and promote it, positive emotions appear to both characterize and help with optimal functioning and promote it. And there's work also by Fredrickson, that's the broaden and build theory. So when you start doing something that makes you feel better, that energizes you and you perform better to want to do more, and you create an upward spiral. But the same can happen with a downward spiral. So we want to be looking with our self-care is what can we be doing to help increase these positive emotions. And none of this is minimizing, the real challenges a lot of people are facing in all aspects of their world at the moment. So it's finding what level of resources we can find to cope in the now. And this again just shows if we are building those positive emotions, we're increasing our intellectual resources. So we're actually going to be better placed to be able to do problem solving. Our learning capacity will be better. our physical resources will be built, our social resources will be better, and our psychological ones. So lots of benefits around it. And then self-care itself is the practice of taking care of one's own physical and emotional needs with the goals of remaining healthy and resilient. So it sounds simple. And what gets in the way? What stops us actually doing it? So actually put those in the chat. We all know that it's important. You told me that right at the beginning. But actually, what gets in the way of you making self-care a priority? Other people, time, not taking it seriously, workload, not enough time, not knowing what to do, yeah, caring for others, workload. So very, very similar themes coming through. And sometimes that is an absolute real, and that is an absolute fact. Sometimes it may be that actually we are choosing for some reason not to priority, not having the energy, and that becomes a downward spiral, doesn't it? If you have less energy, it becomes harder to do things. Workload, too tired, energy being a lot of these things. Whereas actually, if we look at the upward spiral and the idea of the positive emotions, if we can just take little steps that will start building those resources, that will help replenish our energy to help us find the resources to do a little bit more. And that's what we have to try and find, the energy to start. And anybody that's done any NLP on this will know that one of the presuppositions is everybody does the best they have with the resources they have available. So what we want to try and help ourselves do is build our resources so that we've got more to draw on. What can stop us getting in the way, even if we know that it is the right thing for us? We should be doing that, but for whatever reasons we are finding ways to stop it. When I was looking at a picture, bizarrely this one came up, which is literally just down the road from me. It's where I go on pretty much my daily walk, but actually that you should be getting out there doing something good for you, but actually for some reason you are prioritizing other things. Now, let's look at this. Look at this picture. And I'm going to ask you to, how are we doing for time? I'm going to stop screen sharing. And hopefully you had a moment to look at that picture. And I would like you to think of 3 words that, actually I'm going to put you into breakout, if I can manage breakout rooms with this number of people. I'm going to put you into breakout rooms and give you a few minutes just to think about a time when you have felt like, I don't want to put words out there because I want you to create your own words, but you saw that picture that would have engendered some level of emotion. Now you might not remember quite leaping up in the air, but it's that time, that moment when you have felt the best version of yourself, when you felt you could do anything. And try and think of a specific time, and then find 3 words to describe that time. Okay, so we're all right for time at the moment. So I'm going to give you, 5 minutes just to chat in groups. So you come back to the group with your 3 words. All right, so let's, if we have, okay. So yeah, you should have 4 or 5 people in each room, and I will put you in rooms now and bring you back in probably about 5 minutes, if that's all right. Okay.